My creepy entitled neighbor is constantly trying to find excuses to come to my house with the secret intention of trying to get with me. But after she showed up one night while my girlfriend was here, my girlfriend put this lady in her place in a way that she truly will never forget. Here's what happened. So I recently moved into a new house in a small gated community over the summer, and this is the first time I've lived in a house since I was little. When I moved in, I received a lot of welcome gifts from my neighbors since it is a very tight-knit community, and this is how I met most of my neighbors, including a woman who we will call Dana and her husband. Dana is my next door neighbor, and the first time we met, Dana came to my front door with her husband and 3 sons to introduce themselves. They brought me homemade cookies as a welcome gift, and her sons were really into dirt bikes and saw mine in the garage as I was moving in. I told them they could come over and check them out anytime they wanted, and honestly, I was just being nice. Now, Dana never really said anything or gave out any kind of red flag, but the next week I was at work, I got a motion notification from one of my cameras at my house. It was a video of Dana by herself looking into a window on the side of my house. I maybe thought she was checking to see if I was home, so I didn't think much of it. But then I got a text from her later that day asking me when I would be home since her sons wanted to come over and check out my bikes. I replied that I would be working late, and she responded that she would let her sons know. And honestly, nothing ever really happened for a few weeks. The second event was a Saturday night where she knocked on my front door and asked if I would like to come over for dinner. Now, at the time, I didn't really have much going on, so I said to her, sure, why not? I go over to her house and I'm expecting her family to be there, but no, it was just her. She said that her family was visiting a family member, and I didn't want to be rude, so I ended up staying. Now, Dana is a big talker, so I barely got a word in that night. It felt strange, but it was just a conversation. I saw her husband, who we will call Chris, a few days later while checking the mail, and he asked me if I enjoyed Dana's cooking, but I just responded that it was great and that I wish he could have made the dinner. So I guess he knew about us having dinner, and I was fine with that. The third event was a few days ago when my camera caught Dana walking into my backyard by herself, and the camera picked up that she was looking into my shed. I then confronted her on the phone, and she said she was just looking for a shovel. I informed her that my tools were in the garage and made sure to let her know that I can see everything on my cameras. She then apologized for not asking me before coming over, and she later that day sent me a picture of my boat in my driveway, asking if I could take her out on the boat sometime, and I just left that message on read. The latest event happened last night. I had my somewhat new girlfriend over at the house, and we were grilling in the backyard having a good time when all of a sudden Dana shows up with her boys and literally self-invited her family to dinner. It was extremely awkward for everybody. I tried telling them that I didn't have enough for everybody, but Dana claimed that her family wasn't that hungry, and she didn't even leave until my girlfriend left. So at this point, I'm extremely confused if Dana is into me or just has no social awareness. The only thing at this point keeping me from straight up confronting her is that we are neighbors, meaning that we have to live next to each other. Her husband has been nice and doesn't give off any strained vibes, but at this point, I'm wondering what I can do to tell her that I want her to leave me alone. Do I need to wait for her to do something again? What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, for starters, I honestly was not expecting the original post to blow up in the way that it did, and I would like to thank everybody for their advice. It turns out that the people who said she was into me were absolutely right. Dana texted me last Thursday, letting me know that her family was going out of town for the weekend. She said that she would be lonely and wanted to know if I'd like to keep her company. She said something like, she's grateful to have such a young and strong man in her life, referring to me. Now, I'm 90% sure that means she's into me, but I just politely declined by telling her that I would be with my girlfriend. Friday night rolls around, and I'm chilling with my girlfriend at home, and Dana knocks on the door. I'm so thankful for my girlfriend because she let Dana absolutely have it. After that, we didn't hear anything from Dana the entire weekend, but I guess now Dana is mad because she issued a homeowners association violation for my trash cans being in the wrong place. Also, the other night, she was taking pictures of my girlfriend's car parked on the street for whatever reason. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of my neighbors who let me know that Dana and her husband are apparently in an open relationship because her husband is bi. Anyways, it's not really my problem, and I'll just deal with them as my neighbors, but ever since my girlfriend had that talk with her, she thankfully has not been on my property ever since. Oh man, this is so sketchy. Dana absolutely had the hots for this guy, and the fact that she was even trying that in the first place is so weird. Like, she was creeping around your property, going through your shed, and looking through your windows when you weren't at home. Like, what is going on right now? That is some creepy behavior. And that also really sucks because these people are literally next door to you. They're your next door neighbors. You have to deal with them all the time. And here you are hitting the unlucky lottery of having having some lady who wants to get with you. So truly, I'm so glad your girlfriend was there when Dana showed up, because that clearly put a nail in the coffin right then and there. And hopefully, for the sake of you and your house, you don't have to deal with Dana anytime soon. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not paying back my friend for the ticket to a concert that she promised she would go to, but ended up backing out at the last second? Because after she saw that I took someone else on her dime, she's now demanding that I pay her back. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 21-year-old female and I wanted to attend a concert in Atlanta, but the total cost of the ticket and the flight was $435. I first asked two friends, but they both declined because of money, and one of them suggested I ask our mutual friend who we will call Lily. I didn't know Lily well, so I decided to ask my friend who we will call Jade first. I had been close with Jade for about a year, but recently she had been doing some things that were making me upset. For example, she had backed out of plans literally an hour before an assigned seat trip that I had booked. When I didn't ask her to hang out as much after that, she asked why, and I told her everything that had been bothering me, and instead of apologizing, she just focused on the fact that she knew something was wrong. Well, I just put it in the past, and I asked Jade if she would be going to the concert. I detailed all the information about flights, dates, and cost, and I told her to email her professors about missing class on Monday if she really wanted to go. Well, she said yes, agreeing to pay me back since her card wasn't working at the time. So I went ahead and I booked everything. Then, a few days later, she told me that she couldn't go because of a midterm on Monday. Now, since I had already told her before to email her professors, I assumed that she didn't want to go, so I started looking for somebody else. I told her she would need to pay the $75 name change fee for the flight, and she agreed. Next, I asked Lily, the friend who I was going to call after Jade, if she said no. Lily had practice on Monday, and her coach wouldn't let her miss it. Well, a few days later, Jade messaged me saying she got the test moved. Now, at this point, I was frustrated, but I agreed. She slowly paid me back over a month. However, a few days after that, Jade told me that she didn't want to go anymore because it would be awkward since we hadn't talked much lately. I said to her, okay, but I was still very frustrated. I then started to ask everybody that I knew, and I had asked around 30 people and posted about the tickets, but no one could go due to class, work, or money. I was willing to go alone, but I really did not want to go to Atlanta by myself. Now, I still tried to sell Jade's ticket on TickPick where I got it from to pay her back, but no one bought it. Right before the time was up to be able to change the name on the plane ticket, I called a girl by the name of Penny, and she said it was too expensive, so I offered to let her pay just the name change fee, and she agreed, and we ended up going to the concert together. Well, Jade saw Penny's post about the concert and asked for her ticket money back, which totaled up to $300. I then explained that I tried to get back her money, but I simply couldn't do it. But then Jade said she wants her money back from either me or Penny. Now, Penny doesn't have the money, and neither do I, since $300 is literally my entire paycheck for 2 weeks. So am I the jerk for not paying back my friend for the concert? What should I do? Okay, honestly, first and foremost, no, you're not the jerk, but also Jade is a mess. Seriously, why are you still friends with this person? She has the audacity to flake out at the last second and then try to be like, wait a second, you went with someone else? I want my money back. And at that point, it's like, no, I'm not paying you a single cent. You're an idiot for wasting my time, and this is no longer my problem. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because this situation is quite literally Jade's fault. Am I the jerk for asking my mother-in-law not to tell my wife to keep secrets from me? Because right now, my mother-in-law is freaking out on me, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, we live with my mother-in-law, and we are moving in 4 months. This morning, my mother-in-law told my wife to keep something from me. It was a pretty serious family situation, and my wife told me about it. I then asked my mother-in-law to not try to make my wife keep secrets from me, that we've spent months working on our communication, and secrets and lying will just lead to divorce. And after I said that, I walked away. Well, she later barges in, telling me that I don't love her daughter if I'm threatening divorce, which I wasn't. My wife and I have been working on communication because of a lie that was told, and we're both on the same page on this issue. I told her that she has no idea the history my wife and I have, and that telling my wife made it our business. And trying to get my wife to keep secrets from me made me uncomfortable. It clearly also made my wife uncomfortable too, which is why she told me in the first place. Well, she then went off on me about me keeping her daughter from her. One of the most discussed things in our relationship is me trying to get my wife to spend more time with her mother, and it's been brought up half a dozen times in the last 2 months. We're moving halfway across the country in 4 months, and I've been pushing my wife to spend more time with her mom before we leave, just so that that she doesn't feel left out or as lonely. She's also said that I was showing a controlling side by asking her not to try and get my wife to hide things from me, and that I was acting like a dictator. She then ended by alluding that I wasn't a part of the family, and that none of this is my business and I need to apologize for blowing up on her, even though I never raised my voice at her. She then said I don't let her daughter speak to her about our relationship because my wife doesn't run to her whenever we have disagreements or arguments. We sit down and discuss them until the problem is resolved, and then that's the end of it. At this point, she stormed out of the room and texted my wife that we need to pack up our things and leave. So we decided to leave the house for the day. Her mom called her and apologized to her after calling my brother-in-law and telling him I was saying I was going to get a divorce. He called us afterwards and completely agreed with what I said about trust in a relationship and not being with someone you can't trust. But she said I need to apologize for being a controlling dictator when my wife asked if she was going to apologize to me. Now, leaving early is an option. We could be gone tomorrow, but I'm not going to ask my wife to uproot her life at the drop of a dime and leave her family so quickly. It wouldn't be fair at all, and it's not an option in my mind as much as I'd like it to be. My wife said that if she tries to scare us with kicking us out again, we are leaving, and that we'll talk about how long we're staying once some time has passed. So am I in the wrong? Am I overreacting in some kind of way, or am I the jerk? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk here. Your mother-in-law sounds insane. Seriously, think about it for a second. Everything that she's doing right now kind of leads me to believe that she is the one with the problem. For starters, she heard the word divorce and she's like, oh my god, you're gonna divorce my daughter? And it's like, nope, that's not what I said. You're just using selective hearing, which by the way, I can't stand when people do that. They hear one thing in a conversation and they're like, oh, that's what you meant, or at least that's how I'm gonna say you meant it. And it's like, come on, get a life. Like, that's so dumb. But also, like, I don't blame your wife for not going to her for like any problems, because the mother-in-law in this story sounds like the kind of person who would be like, oh, you should divorce your husband, or say some other kind of like outlandish crazy stuff, all because of some like minor disagreement, which also leads into the main point that it is incredibly inappropriate for the mother-in-law to be like, oh, don't tell your husband about this. It's like, no, what are you doing? That's so weird. The wife in this story has every right to tell their husband about exactly what's going on. There's no reason to hide this. Like, that's so dumb. So no, you're not the jerk for what happened here, because the way the mother-in-law is acting is completely unacceptable. And in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would have moved out of that house the second she said, oh, you've got to get out of here. Because for me, that kind of behavior absolutely will not be tolerated. Am I the jerk for not inviting my parents to the opening night after party of a musical that I'm currently working in? Because right now they're calling me ungrateful, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm a musical theater actress, and I'm currently in rehearsals at one of my country's national theaters for a musical. I'm an understudy for 2 female lead roles, and also a member of the ensemble, and this is a big deal for me professionally. Recently, my parents told me they booked an Airbnb in the city for opening night so that they could attend the after party. Now, this came as a huge surprise because I never mentioned inviting them and didn't expect that they would assume they were coming. As far as I know, the party is only for the cast members and maybe their significant others, meaning that it's not meant for any other family members. When I explained this to my parents, it turned into a huge argument. My mom started crying and my dad yelled at me. They insisted that actors always invite their loved ones to such events and that it's normal for them to attend. My father, who works in the music industry, has connections with a lot of theater people and has somehow managed to get into opening night parties before, even for productions he wasn't involved in. They both argue that I was being ungrateful and insulting them by not inviting them, especially since they have supported me and my career. For context, my parents have always wanted to be deeply involved in my life. They can be overbearing, always wanting to know everything, and seeking validation for how well they've raised me. They crave compliments for the role they've played in my success, which can feel incredibly suffocating at times. I've spoken to some of my colleagues about this, and most of them don't even have anyone coming to the premiere. They weren't even sure if they were allowed to invite significant others to the after party. I also told my parents that I would not have even invited my best friends to the party because this night is about me and the rest of the cast having fun together and celebrating what we've accomplished. I even reassured them that I love them and I am incredibly grateful for everything they've done for me. This night is about my work and my relationships with my theater friends. For once, I want to enjoy my success without feeling like I'm in my dad's shadow. To make things even more complicated, I'm currently living with them, so this argument has made things really tense at home. So am I the jerk for holding my ground and not inviting them? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is so weird. You've got it right. This is absolutely for you and the cast. This is not for your parents to try and crash and like get involved with, because it really doesn't sound like they want to be at the cast last party to celebrate your accomplishments, but instead it sounds like a way to network with people and like get some clout. Like they really seem obsessed about the fact that you're successful, and they're sitting there trying to be like, oh wow, look at my daughter. Look at all the things we did for her. We did this for her. Look at this. And it's like, sure, they were supportive, but you're the one that did this. They didn't get this job, and they're definitely not even in the cast. So for them to try and live vicariously through you, like that is so awkward, and it really is incredibly suffocating. Like I see exactly what you're talking about. So no, you're not the jerk for standing your ground, because this literally is not about your parents. And the fact that they're trying to make this about them and somehow crash your party, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. My boyfriend is keeping a letter and a lot of gifts from his previous girlfriend in a way that is incredibly concerning. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been together for around 3.5 years. We've been saving for a mortgage, and we're currently looking to move in together in January. For reference, I'm 26 and he's 25. His relationship with his last and only ex was back when he was about 19 years old. And as I understand it, she cheated on him and left him completely heartbroken. A couple of months into our relationship, I found poems that my boyfriend was writing about his ex while we were already together. I ended up confronting him about them because they really upset me, and he told me that he just liked writing and he was reflecting on feelings he once had. So I just chose to accept this. Around this time, I also found a letter his ex had written him, along with some small gifts from her that he had kept in a drawer in his room. But I decided to never mention this to him and just forget about them. Well, fast forward to now, and like I said, we are hoping to get a mortgage together soon. He told me that he had tidied up a lot of his things in his room, he had boxed some stuff up, and tidied up his wardrobe and drawers to start prepping for us moving. But today, I couldn't get that letter and those gifts out of my head, so I looked in the drawer that I found them in before. Well, he's tidied up the drawer, and the letter is folded neatly at the very top on top of the small gifts. I know that sometimes people keep things for sentimental value or to reflect on happy times, but like I said, his ex was apparently very horrible to him in the end, so I don't know why he would want that sort of reminder unless he was still pining for her in some kind of way. So even after all this time, he's left the letter right there where he can easily look at it at any time, rather than at least stashing it away in one of the many boxes in his wardrobe or something like that. And you know what? I'm now really upset and I'm so confused. He is so lovely to me and talks excitedly about us moving in and getting married. And he always tells me how much he loves me. Do you think I'm reading too much into what I found? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're reading into this too far. I think you're seeing this exactly as the way it's being presented, and in my opinion, this seems a little suspicious. Like, he does know this lady cheated on him, right? Like, his ex cheated on him and ruined their relationship. Why on earth would he write a poem about her and keep the gifts that she gave him? Like, I can understand if you have photos or birthday cards or like mementos of some kind that's like a collection of all the stuff friends and family have like given you, but this just seems incredibly different. It really does come off as if he's still like longing to be with her in some kind of way, especially with the poem. Like, there's just no good excuse for that. So personally, I would talk to him about this like today if I was in your shoes, because this behavior, in my opinion, is super weird. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that he can't bring my half-siblings or his longtime girlfriend to my wedding? Because after he assumed that they would be invited, I'm now left at an impasse and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 31-year-old male and I'm getting married, and my half-siblings are 9 years old. It's also important to note that I did not have the best relationship with my dad growing up. We had a traumatic life event happen in our family, and after that, he was pretty terrible for a good part of it, and then not present for the rest of it, and he is a little more tolerable now. My mom, on the other hand, made a wonderful single parent, and she means everything to me. My dad accidentally had half-siblings with his girlfriend very late in life, so they are way younger than I am, and this is the same girlfriend that he cheated with on my mom, so I don't really respect her, although I have never shown her any disrespect or displeasure. I have also never gotten along with her, and she just completely ignores me and has never really respected me. Regardless, I know how awful of a dad my dad can be, so I have always been a kind and caring sibling to my half-siblings. I play with them, I spoil them with expensive video game stuff, I've taken them on fun trips to Disney, etc. But now I'm getting married, and somehow, for some reason, he got it in his head when he first found out about it, that his kids and girlfriend would be invited. Now the problem is, I never talk about his girlfriend to my mom, and I've made sure that she doesn't know about the kids, because I think she still has some sort of residual feelings for my dad and never remarried. Now, I would never want his girlfriend at my wedding anyways, after her complete non-interaction with me for the past 15 years, but I don't want him to bring my half-siblings either, because I don't want to hurt my mom in any way during this event. She doesn't know about this, she hasn't asked me not to invite them or anything like that, and she doesn't even know they exist. But instead, I just want to do this of my own volition. They are also only 9 years old and don't know that their parents are cheaters. And I know that it is not my place to tell them, especially not when they're this young. I also don't think a 9-year-old would take it as a slight if they weren't invited to a wedding. It's just a super complex social dynamic, and I don't know if they would even be perturbed by it. So anyways, getting back to my conversation with my dad, he assumed that they would be invited. Now, an important bit of context here is that I've never called him out on his cheating or anything like that. So he has always assumed I was fine with him forcing his new cheating family upon me. But here, I told him that they could not come. He asked why, as if he couldn't imagine why, and I just called him out on everything. The fact that he cheated with his girlfriend, who has never treated me like a human being, and the fact that those children are a living, breathing reminder of the fact that he cheated. I told him that he didn't have to come to the wedding either if he couldn't abide by those rules, and then I just hung up and I blocked him for a couple of days. Now, I haven't unblocked him yet, but I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, this is a really complicated situation, and I don't blame you for feeling a certain kind of way about it, because the giant pink elephant in the room is that your dad cheated. He literally tore your family apart, and then he treated you like garbage. Like, that can't be ignored. That really is something that needs to be addressed. So if you don't want his girlfriend and your half-siblings at this wedding, then in my opinion, you have every right to deny their entrance. Because at the end of the day, this is your wedding, so you absolutely set the rules for it. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.